Cascade Hoops Talk, bringing the world NAIA basketball one podcast at a time. Good morning, Cascade Hoops Talk. Billy D here. Hey, today we have Greg Tonagel. He's the head men's basketball coach at Indiana Wesleyan, the Wildcats. You know, Coach Tonagel, oh, what a resume. This will be his 18th season at Indiana Wesleyan. They've won 12 Crossroads championships, 3 national championships. Just a phenomenal run there. He's already got 478 victories. And, Coach Tonagel's still a young guy. And who knows how many victories he can rack up in the next 20, 25 seasons. But what I'm going to talk to Coach Tonagel about, and you'll hear him talk about his coaching mission. He doesn't just go out to win basketball games. He's raising young men. Basketball skills have an expiration date. So when guys leave your program, what kind of person will there be? And really, that's the true measure of any program. And Coach Tonagel really focuses on that, and you'll hear him talk about that. But we still can't overlook their success on the court. It's been fantastic. We recorded this on Tuesday, September 27th. And really look forward. I'm going to see Coach Tonagel early in November. I'll be out in Indiana. I can't wait to get into Larkey Arena and watch some basketball. Hey, thanks again to Coach Tonagel and Indiana Wesleyan, and let's take a listen. Cascade Hoops Talk, Billy D. Hey, I have Greg Tonagel. He's the head men's basketball coach at Indiana Wesleyan. Greg, thank you so much for being on the show.
Well, I appreciate it, Billy D. It's been a while, but I guess this means hoop season is right around the corner.
Yeah, it just seems like I told Lance Von Vogt this yesterday, I guess. It seems like 2 weeks ago I was sitting behind him in Kansas City, and now here we are. We're almost ready to go again. I mean, the summer seems long, but then it seems short as well. But it's time for hoop again.
Absolutely, we're ready.
Greg, you're going into your 18th season. You've got 478 wins, which is phenomenal. I know you won't talk about it, but you got a chance at crossing 500 this season, which would be amazing. 12 regular season championships, 3 national championships. Obviously, you're a great basketball coach, but I want to start off today with letting you talk about your coaching mission and how, talk about your coaching mission, building young men, and why Indiana Wesleyan is such a good place for that.
Well, I appreciate that question. That's a good question, and I think it's evolving, and I think it's always changing. When I came in 18 years ago, and by the way, when you say 18, that doesn't make me feel good.
You're still young. Stop.
I'm on the other. Well, here's the reality. I actually had this true reality this summer. I'm on the other half of my career, and I had never been there before. And I don't know years-wise, but it just feels like I'm on the other half. Our league has turned over. When I came into our league 18 years ago, I was the newest, youngest member. We had several guys in our league that had coached for 40 years, that had won 700-800 games. And now, we had a Crossroads League meeting last week, and I want to say outside of Cottingham, I believe I'm the longest tenured coach in the Crossroads. So I am on that other half. Mm-hmm. And I say that to say my perspective of coaching's changed. When I came in, I felt like I had to prove myself. I felt like I had to earn, my identity as a coach. It was really wrapped up into winning, and as a result, players, they were a commodity to be used, right? They were to help me win. And at some point along the way, I realized that just wasn't the most fulfilling way to coach. One, it didn't get the most out of my players, but 2, it didn't bring me the joy why I got into this coaching. And it didn't happen overnight. There wasn't an epiphany, but I felt like the Lord just kind of changed my heart towards really developing these young guys, pouring into them, and making it about them. And in a way, it's become more fulfilling, more enjoyable. And I think we're having more success. I'm seeing players reach their full potential. And the way I say it is just my coaching mission is to help young men trade the pursuit of me for the pursuit of 3. And that's a fancy way of saying, I want to embed inside of them this I am third philosophy. We live in a world that just focuses on me. What do I need? What's in it for me? Youth sports are just dominated by parents trying to make everything about their son, right, or daughter.
Yeah. Yep.
And that doesn't make for great husbands down the road. That doesn't make for great leaders, in the future. That's not what our country needs. I think we need less people who think about themselves and only care about their own needs, and more who care about others. And the fact that we get to use basketball, to participate in that, it's a lofty dream that we want to help these young men, do that, but it's a fulfilling dream. It's why I'm in coaching, and it's why, honestly, there is some excitement for the second half of my coaching career as I see it, because hopefully I get better at it, and hopefully there's more stories, more relationships and opportunities to just mingle with these young men along the way.
Yeah, I appreciate you talking about that. I've got to know a few of your players, even post-career, and, you and Indiana Wesleyan have a huge impact on their lives. Now, I understand your coaching mission, but whenever I talk to guys who graduate from there, they also talk about in the impact of Indiana Wesleyan itself. What is it about that school that is so special and helps people grow?
Well, there's a very specific culture here, and when you get embedded into this culture, like what we tell a lot of recruits, we don't become you, you become us, and it's part of a community. And you're moving in the same direction. Now, that doesn't mean it's all hunky-dory, that we're perfect, that we got it all figured out, but that's a transformational community. You're with other men that you want to become. You've heard it said, you become like the 5 people you hang around with or you're most closely associated with. Well, when you can put yourself in a locker room full of 14, 15 men that you want to become, that you admire, and you're mentored by people, you're going to become better. You're going to be challenged. Greatness is going to be called out of you, and that's what we're striving to do, here at Indiana Wesleyan. And the unique culture, I think, has been able to produce that year in and year out.
Yeah, and I thank you, Coach Tonagel. I appreciate that, because I think what you're doing there at Indiana Wesleyan is amazing. Before I talk about your team, I want to go back. I warned you about this before we started. Back to your Valparaiso days. Every time I look you up, I find something. Did you started all 4 years there?
Well, I did start 4 years, but here's the caveat.
Okay.
I was there 6. And just the other day, my boys, I got 2 boys, they're in 8th grade and they're 6th grade, and they're beyond where I was at their age, and they should be, because they're coaches' kids. They've grown up in this gym. They've got every advantage, and I remind them of that. But the other day, they said, "Dad, we were Googling you, and what happened in college? You weren't that good." And I just had to laugh. What do you mean? And they said, "Well, you had a lot of stats in high school and you didn't in college." Well, I tore my ACL after my freshman year. And never really recovered. I had 5 more surgeries. I was in and out. And from a basketball perspective, it wasn't the greatest career. Now, what I told my boys was, I said, my job was to help my team win, and that's what I tried to do. I played in 4 NCAA tournaments. I tried to do my best to help our team win. Never looked good. It was a little bit gritty. But that's where I learned coaching. And, I sat the bench sometimes because of injury. I wasn't always the fastest kid, wasn't the most athletic. But I learned how I was going to, try to help my team win. And all the while was learning about coaching, even though I didn't know it. I didn't go into college wanting to be a coach, but when I came out, there's nothing I could think I wanted to do more than to coach basketball. So that 6-year career led me into coaching.
And I'm gonna take a guess here that adversity you faced at Valparaiso made you a better coach, because you had to play through it. It just didn't come easy to you.
100%. It's one of those things. In the moment, I wouldn't have chosen it. I wouldn't have chosen 5 knee surgeries, a ruined college basketball career. But in the aftermath, I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't trade what I went through. I wouldn't trade the people that came into my life. I wouldn't trade the perspective I gained. It set me up for what I'm doing now. I had no idea at that time that I'd be a coach. I had no idea what ministry and coaching looked like. See, I always had 2 passions. I love the game of basketball. I grew up in Indiana. I grew up on a dairy farm. We milked cows and played basketball. That's what we did, and that's all we knew. I memorized the movie Hoosiers. Like, I knew every line, every scene. That was me growing up. But I also had passion for my faith. I grew up in a godly home. I just didn't know how those 2 could ever mix. And I went into college thinking, well, maybe I'll do something in ministry, but didn't realize that could be basketball. Then I get into college basketball, and I realized, for me, the greatest opportunity I have to express my faith and to teach other people is through the game of basketball. And over the 18 years, those 2 have come together. And I'm living the dream, Billy.
Yeah.
I don't have $1 million contract and whatnot, but man, I wouldn't trade it for anything. I wouldn't want to be at any other place than where I'm at right now.
Now, I thought your dream growing up was to one day be as good as Draben.
Hey, I concede this all the time. Best free throw shooter I've ever been around. I couldn't touch him in a free throw shooting competition. And I'll openly admit that for Steve Draven. Can I tell you a little Steve Draven story?
Yeah, go ahead.
He hit 300. I'm probably going to be off by a few, but he hit 370 some free throws in a row in high school when we were together. I mean, I was in the 170s. He was in the 370s.
That's amazing. One day, next time you see him, tell him to ask him to tell you the story about when he and his father and his sister went to shoot free throws, and they had a free throw shooting contest at the gym, and he lost. So he said, I was the best free throw shooter in the country, but I was third best in my family. It was a funny story.
His dad is still one of my favorite coaches I've ever had to this day.
Well, let's there's a couple of guys that I want you to give a nod to that really meant so much to your program. Dan Larkey, he was a transfer in. He came in as a graduate, but boy, he really made your team special last season. Talk a little about him. He's graduated now, but talk about what he meant to your program.
Yeah, Dan, I have expressed and described Dan. He was a gap filler. We knew we were only getting him for 1 year. He was a grad transfer, but we needed him last year. We had lost a great team, obviously, in Kyle Mangus and some other guys, and didn't really know what we were going to have. And Dan just filled in and helped us, continue the success that we were having. And that's tough to do, right? To come in as a transfer for 1 year, to hit the ground running. And Dan's now back down in Florida, probably golfing most of the days and working some of the other days. But it was a great get for us for that 1 year.
And then another guy that's graduated and moved on, Michael Thompson III. He just meant so much to your program. I think he was a 4-year guy, wasn't he?
He was a 3-year guy. He went to Trevecca Nazarene first and then came in, but didn't grow up too far from here. And just a giver, an energy giver, great culture guy to have around. And he's actually playing overseas now. I believe he's in Portugal. I don't think he's taken off yet, but he signed a deal to go over there, and he's going to get to see the world.
That's absolutely fantastic. I'm so happy when young men get a chance to do that and kind of live out their dream. But this year you've got a pretty good core coming back. It's going to start with your All-American Seth Maxwell in the middle. I was thinking about Seth Maxwell the other day. I remember when he was just a skinny kid backing up Evan, and now he's kind of like the dean of big men, fifth-year senior, and talk about what his game means to you.
Yeah, Seth still has room to grow, and I think that's kind of what drew him back. He graduated, he was ready to move on, and it was his choice, obviously, to say, I'm going to use this 5th year and I'm going to come back. And I think it's because Seth knows there's more to what he could bring, and he had a great year. I don't want to take anything away. He was Defensive Player of the Year in the Crossroads, and he was the Crossroads League Player of the Year. But there's still another level. Seth is one of the most gifted people that I've coached. But for Seth, it's always been more than basketball. He can play about 5 instruments. He's just very talented and gifted. And in some ways, basketball is not his first love, and I get that. But as he's kind of fell in love with the process, which I saw him do more this offseason, he's had his best offseason. So I'm excited. Can Seth take that into this year and really lead us? Because for us to really go to that next level, it's going to have to be Seth taking that next step. And he certainly has done it so far in August and September. Now, the real question is, can he do it in the middle of the season and then on when we get to January and February?
Yeah, I'm anxious to see him this season. Yeah, a couple of high motor guys coming back, both started last year. Tim Adukaze, he just seemed like the guy who pulled down every rebound you needed, 12.7 rebounds. And then Spencer Piercefield, who got better and better and better last season as the season went on, 12 points, 14 points, 4 rebounds. That's a pretty good core to build around, isn't it?
Yeah, Spencer really surprised everybody last year, including us. We went into the year, Spencer was more of our off guard. Noah Smith was our starting point. We lose Noah 3 weeks into preseason to a torn ACL. So Noah was a first-teamer, doesn't play. Spencer gets thrust into this position, and it was a year we didn't have a lot of guards, so Spencer had to do everything. And we asked a lot of him, and he responded. And he's a great decision-maker. As he gets some help this year, I think you're going to see an even better Spencer because he doesn't have to carry such a big load. You mentioned Tim Adukaze. I think he's ready for a big year. He really bought into just doing the dirty work for us last year, and he's capable of doing a lot. But in addition to that, he really got on the glass for us. He really became one of our defensive, stoppers. So I'm excited about the year that he's going to have for.
And then I saw on your roster, Noah Smith will be back. I'm sure he's anxious to go.
He is, and he's getting released this week. I don't know the process of, when he's fully back, but just seeing him back into action back on the court, leading this team. I mean, he was our floor general 2 years ago. He along with Seth, are the two guys that can really turn the dial for this team this year. So happy and really proud of the work he's put in to put himself in this position.
Yeah, that'll be important if he can give you some good minutes. And then just so people in Marion don't think the cupboard is bare, you have three guys coming back who played 10, 15 minutes a game. Luke Stevens, Griffin Cleaver, and Alex Stauffer. They've all got experience, and they're all back this season.
Yeah, I think what was good about last year was, we had to turn that page from Kyle Mangus, who was averaging 30 points a game. It's like, where's the production going to come? Well, guys just naturally fill those gaps. Guys step into roles that they otherwise wouldn't have. And Griff, as a freshman, is one of those guys. Alex Stauffer was. And I'm expecting them to do the same and even more this year. Luke Stevens is a fifth-year guy. He's a coach on the floor. So all those guys are going to have more opportunities, bigger roles. And sometimes as a coach, that's fun to sit back and to watch it unfold, because I can't script it, and I can't tell you right now what's going to happen, but I know those guys have worked really hard, so they're all going to fulfill a new and bigger role in some new way.
So, Greg, last season there was a lot of talk about, the Crossroads is down, the Crossroads is not as good as it has been. I think the Crossroads was pretty tough last season. I think the issue is that there are a lot of conferences in the NAI that are much, much better. In fact, all across the NAI, the basketball is better. I mean, how do you see it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the NAI is considerably better. It's just gotten better every year. I think the talent continues to pour in. Maybe some of that's the transfer portal. Guys are transferring to the NAI, but obviously the coaching, I'm a little biased, but it's as good as I think you're going to find, and even better at the Division I level, because guys really coach at this level. Man, there's some absolute geniuses at this level, and I think the Crossroads League last year was good and even. I'm not sure we had a national champion. I think we kind of knew that going in, but I think we had a bunch of top 15 teams. I think this year it's a little bit better at the top, but once again, the depth of this league, there's 8 teams that I think should be in the top 15 and that can compete on a night-in and night basis. So the thing I love about the Crossroads League, it just prepares you for everything you're going to see, outside of our league, and I think we've done pretty well on a national level.
Yeah, if you look across the league, Grace has everybody coming back. They're going to be loaded up. Steve Draven down at Bethel, he's went and got a transfer. I mean, they're going to be much better this season. But I'm going to end up leaving somebody out. Marion's going to be, but I think the league will be definitely better this season than last.
Absolutely. I mean, I like I said, I really do think there's 8 teams that are really going to be competitive nationally, and there's a lot of experience returning because what do we have? 5 teams in the national tournament last year, so that really breeds confidence. Mount Vernon's another team. They were in the national tournament. They return everybody.
Yes.
Huntington too. They're in the national tournament. They returned the key guys that they needed. So it's a great league. I got a ton of respect for the league. I've really seen it grow over the years, and I've been really glad to have been a part of it because it sharpened me. Like I go into year 18, I'm like, I got to get better. Like I got to figure some things out here, in preseason. Otherwise, we're not going to be able to compete in this league, and that only makes you better.
Yeah, thanks for reminding me about Mount Vernon and Huntington. Huntington's going to come out here to the West Coast. They're going to go to Southern Oregon. They're going to play William Jessup and Southern Oregon. So that's going to be a really good test for them as well. Talking about preseason or non-conference. I've looked through almost everybody's schedule. I've never seen non-conference schedules like this. Just yours, for example, you always start off tough with that Crossroads, WAC challenge. You got Cornerstone, Indiana Tech. Then you go back to Lucky on November 5th. Hey, fans in Marion, get there for that Caleb Dimmick Classic. You have Thomas More coming to town. It's for a great cause, but Thomas More is going to be very good. A team I've watched a time or two, Oregon Tech is going to come out and play in Lucky. Then you're going to go to that Small College Champions Classic, play Dakota Wesleyan and Morningside. Those are not gimmies. I mean, just up and down. And your team, everybody is playing a real, a hyped up, but it's not the right words, but a hyped schedule or much stronger schedules.
This is by far the most difficult schedule I think that I could say we've played since I've been here. And a lot of coaches say that, hey, our schedule stuff, but like I've got it pulled up, and you just went through it, and I'm looking at it, and it's Indiana Tech, Thomas More, Oregon Tech. Then we go right into Mount Vernon, and then that small college basketball deal out in Dakotas is going to be really neat. But like I told our guys, like we're at a point where this is where we need to play. It does us no good to go play Sisters of the Woods, and all that is false confidence. Like, we're going to get exposed early. It's going to help us work on some things, because at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is become the best team we can be in March, and to keep that long-term vision through the difficulties of this early schedule is, I think, the only way to go about it.
Yeah. And then I think I'd like your opinion, but I think the two things that have really driven that, number one, you got the compressed schedule, 28 teams or 28 games. And then, to get in the rankings now, strength of schedule is such it never used to have that much impact, but now it has a much higher impact, and coaches are aware of that. That's my read.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I think when you're fighting for those slots and the positions at the end of the year, they're going to use your strength of schedule. They're going to use your RPI. They're going to head-to-head wins. And I think just over the years, there's different philosophies. Do you rack up a bunch of wins? And that works for some people, but I'm not sure it positions you best at the end. Or do you really test your team? Because, look, we're all going to have some adversity this season. Like, I hate to say it, but probably nobody's going undefeated. It just, in men's basketball, it just doesn't happen.
Right.
And it's been a long time since it has happened. So you can choose your adversity, right? You can maybe force it and create it early, or it can happen later in conference, and nobody really wants it to happen then. So, I think the philosophy for us is can we create a little bit of that adversity early on that's hopefully going to fuel us, and then make us more ready when that next wave of adversity comes, because it's coming, right? If you play in the Crossroads League, it's coming.
Yeah, and I think on the balance, it's a good thing. The only thing I worry about, I've said it a couple of times, with the 28 game limit and then strength, everybody focused on strength of schedule. There are schools that are on the bubble that would like to be NAIA schools that go out and they're able to get on the schedule of Oregon Tech or Southern Oregon or somebody like you, and they're not going to get that opportunity anymore because your non-conference opportunities are limited, and you just can't take a flyer on a team that's trying to build their strength.
Yeah, there were several changes in kind of NAIA basketball legislation that maybe they snuck up on me. I didn't pay attention, but I'm not sure why they happened. That was one of them. I think you're limiting playing opportunity for kids, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And two, our start date, we're not allowed to touch our kids until just a few days ago. And
I know it.
I've always been a proponent of the more time we get with them, the better, right? What are they going to do? Go back and play video games? We have less academic control when they're not on the court with us. And the thing I know about our league and most coaches, nobody's abusing it. Nobody's putting additional pressure and time that these kids don't need. The time they get with us, if you're doing this right, is positive and beneficial. And it does seem like we've been limited a little bit. We're heading in that direction. To me, it's always been one of the benefits of the NAIA over the NCAA. Like, we have less regulation of time with our student athletes. For me, the more time, the better. But you know what? You got to roll with it, and so we are, and we'll continue to make it the best we can.
So, Greg, what are going to be the keys this season for you to make another run at another Crossroads League championship?
Well, it's a healthy Noah Smith. If Noah Smith is healthy, that's depth at the guard position, and it really rounds us out because I love our front line. You didn't mention a freshman that I've got, going to be a very special player, Javen Buchanan. I try not to hype young kids up, but this kid deserves a lot of what's coming, and he's 6'7", very versatile. But if Noah can really get going on the perimeter with Spencer, then I like what we can put on the floor. And then to me, it's just Maxwell. He can go to another level. I've seen it. If he consistently goes there, then we're just a different team.
Yeah. So a couple keys there. Like you say, the big man, and Noah's going to be a question mark. Boy, if you can get something out of the Buchanan, that freshman out of Lafayette, Jeff, I mean, that would be a big, big plus for you, wouldn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you never. It's not great if you're saying, hey, we need this freshman to play well for us to be good, right? They're freshmen. But
yeah.
We've had some freshmen come in and do pretty well and acclimate rather quickly, and that's what I'm asking of Javen. He's got the physical tools to do it, and he's surrounded by good players, so it's not all on his shoulders. But I think he's gonna surprise some people early on. So
one more question. I didn't tell you but do you feel like the program now is over how are you going to play without Kyle Mangus? I know you got so sick of that question, and people ask that. Here you'd won all these games. Kyle Mangus graduates, and people thought the world fell. And Kyle Mangus is a great guy. But do you think you're finally over the Kyle Mangus era?
Well, I still cry at night when I realize I got to wake up and he's not going to be wearing the uniform. So I'm not, but I think everybody else has. So no, I mean, all jokes aside, yes, I think Kyle is incredible. Never coached another player like that.
Yeah.
But like we saw last year, so many new guys stepped up. I was forced as a coach to kind of do things differently, be creative, and it's the same this year. So I think we are proving that, as good as Kyle was, that the culture is just bigger than any one guy.
Indiana Wesleyan Wildcat basketball is not going to collapse. For anybody who's still waiting for that, I got news for you. It ain't coming. Hey,
Let's
Greg.
hope not. I got 6 kids to feed at home. I need a job.
Greg, I really appreciate you taking the time. Always good to talk to you. I wish you the best of luck as the season starts. I can't wait to get out there in Indiana and see you and watch you guys play there in Lucky Arena. What a special treat that's going to be.
I can't wait. We'll have a special seat for you, and appreciate you having me on today.
Hey, Greg, that's Greg Tonagel. He's head coach Indiana Wesleyan Wildcats. Thank you very much, Greg.
Thanks, Billy. Appreciate you, man.
Okay, thanks a lot. Hey, thank you very much, Coach Tonagel. Greg Tonagel is a great guy. He always makes time whenever I reach out, and I really appreciate that. Whatever program you support, go out and get a schedule. Maybe talk to the coach, go up and see a practice. Tell the young men how much you appreciate the sacrifice they make playing for your town and for your school. Talk to the coach and tell him how much you appreciate the sacrifice he and his family make. These guys really give up their life during the winter. But whatever you do, get out to watch these NAI athletes. It's very, very good basketball, and it's very affordable. In fact, NAI basketball is the best entertainment value in America.